Monday here, it's Bowden's bunch to get Philip Fulmer's Tennessee team. Now, Bobby Bowden might have one of the most famous faces in college football, along with Joe Paterno. If he wins this game, he'd be a very select group of coaches who won 2 national titles. Fulmer has not been quite a household name yet, but that is changing in a big hurry after a fantastic fall. With more on that, back to Tony Barnhart. Tony?
Okay, Chris, you know, Fulmer has won about 86% of his games. But when people talk about the league's or the country's best coaches, his name rarely comes up. But, you know, that's about to change. With Tennessee's magical 12-0 season, the rest of the country is learning what the folks in Big Orange Country already knew. Philip Fulmer may not be fancy, but the guy sure knows how to win. His image is neither compelling nor glamorous. It goes back to his roots as a Tennessee offensive lineman. Now he roams the sidelines wearing his hat and a headset, usually with lips pursed. All business.
I think if you give him some shoulder pads and a helmet, then he run out there and, you know, start blocking again if you let him. He's not here to win a dressing award. I don't think Coach will win that anyway.
I'd rather it be, you know, well, he's Mr. Personable and Mr. Wit and all that sort of thing, but that's not me, you know, so I don't worry about it.
People need to understand that that's a very talented person. You don't have to be flamboyant. You don't have to make flamboyant decisions. Sometimes consistency is the hardest thing to manage in our profession, and Philip is the most consistent coach that's out there today.
Consistency is nice, but nothing like a win over Florida. 5 straight losses to Steve Spurrier and the hated Gators had saddled Fulmer with the reputation of a great recruiter who just couldn't match wits with the SEC's best coaches.
It was unfair to draw a conclusion of what Tennessee football or Philip Fulmer was about off of one ball game, because that was the only one that we hadn't gotten done.
Now the Vols are 1 win away from doing it all, with a team that Tennessee insiders say distinctly reflects the personality of its head coach.
This has been the most blue-collar team, you know, around for me. I mean, it's been a team that's really concentrated on its job, you know, really went out and prepared, you know, to get better every day, and I think that comes from the coaching staff.
The biggest thing is nobody's going to outwork him, and that's been the philosophy of this football team. They've kind of embraced that attitude that we're going to work harder than anybody else.
We got a team that's very unselfish and really doesn't care who gets the credit. It's one of the few teams I've ever been around that no one cares who gets the credit.
Thus, in a profession filled with huge egos, friends and colleagues claim Fulmer has managed to keep his in check.
He has let his record speak for itself. The game is not about him. It's about the kids. It's about the university. It's about the state of Tennessee.
I don't have a lot of ego, but I got a whole lot of pride. And, you know, from a prideful standpoint, I'm very proud of what we've accomplished here.
His humble demeanor belies a hunger to succeed and an overwhelming competitive nature which makes him tick.
I don't like to lose anything, and sometimes to a fault. And, you know, just because you're somewhat of an easygoing, quiet person doesn't mean that the juices aren't there and the work ethic's not there.
You don't want to play basketball with him. You don't want to play anything with him, because if you do, you're going to get pushed around.
If he can't beat you physically, he'll beat you psychologically. He's just a real competitive person.
I mean, whatever I did, if I'd chosen to stay in law school, which I was in law school at the time, I would have been the best lawyer that I could have possibly have been.
3 for that offensive line.
However unhip he may look on the sidelines, Fulmer is a natural on the recruiting trail, striking a chord with a younger generation.
You know, you don't recruit as well as we have recruited here without having, you know, some personality and ability to communicate.
He likes to get over there and practice with the offensive linemen and get kind of muddy and dirty with them over there. And he'll crack a joke. He'll say, you know, whatever, you laugh. Then he'll say something serious. You're like, you know, man, you ruined the joke, man.
If being a player's coach is a guy that can be disciplined, be very firm, make good decisions, and love them at the same time, then he's definitely a player's coach.
Ultimately, what you see with Philip Fulmer is what you get, a no-frills offensive lineman. It's not about style points, it's about winning games and building relationships that will last a lifetime.
I can remember his mom telling me that when he was a teeny little boy, he would sit in front of the television and point at the sidelines and say, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. So I think that coaching has been a lifelong dream.
It's one of those things you look at and you say, well, how does it get any better than this? You know, and it is. It is a dream job. And a lot of the Tennessee people, you know, they really they feel a part of what we've done. And you know, I like that. It's so fulfilling from the standpoint of you're leaving somewhat of a legacy. Whatever period of time I choose to do this, I want to leave something that's really special.
Now, friends and family of Fulmer have said that he has been more relaxed and happy than he's ever been. Well, let's see why. He finally beat Florida. He won another SEC championship, and he's getting ready to sign a contract that'll pay him more than $1 million a year. Chris, sounds like Philip Fulmer's got a lot of reasons to have a happy new year.
Well, he certainly does, and we've talked about that with him this week. I think you're right. I agree with his friends and family. There's a special spark that's a result perhaps of the Florida win, the conference title, winning the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year and having a chance to win a national title, recruiting Chris Sims, Phil's son, the top quarterback prospect in the country. You got top recruits just beating down the door to get into part of this program.
A lot of reasons to be excited for Tennessee football in the future. One of the reasons I think Phil Fulmer is more relaxed and more confident is because he's elevated his program into the elite of college football. He's always won games. He's always recruited well. But beating Florida and Steve Spurrier and winning his second straight SEC championship has put him now in a position where he's rubbing elbows with the big dogs. He is the premier. He has one of the premier programs in the game.
Speaking of the big dogs, on the other side of the field, I'm going to talk about Bobby Bowden for a second here. I've known Bobby for over 40 years and competed against him as a football.